In 2001, Pokemon turned 25 years old. And to celebrate, in the Pokemon trading card game, the Pokemon Company released Celebrations, a set of 25 brand new cards celebrating the Pokemon trading card game, as well as 25 reprints of classic cards such as base set Charizard, among many others. You could get these cards through special packs like the ETB or the Pikachu V Union set, which we're going to do V Unions in the next episode because it came out at the same time as this. Celebrations was a set that was kind of cool, and from a gameplay perspective in standard format, actually made quite the impact. I'm Jeff from inthirdperson.com. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's talk about the cards that made an impact from Celebrations. And I need to preface this by saying we're not going to talk about the classic cards. I can't speak to the impact of base set Charizard in the earliest days of the game or anything like that. So we'll focus on the Sword and Shield era cards, of which there were plenty that made a dent on the scene, such as World Champion Flying Pikachu VMAX. I think we have to recognize that when this card came out, it was considered garbage. At 310 HP, free retreat is nice, but max balloon at 1 lightning, 2 colorless for 160 damage was not good enough for the time. How are you getting 3 energy on there? Being able to block basics was still good, but it just wasn't a strong enough attacker relative to the meta at the time. And now things have changed. We saw the release of Arceus V-Star, which let you cover the cost of max balloon pretty easily. We saw double turbo energy enter the format, which kind of helped you cover max balloon, even though you lose 20 damage that way. But on top of that, Palkia V-Star became a thing. And Palkia V-Star was an absolute terror for much of 2022. And the only real counter to it was Flying Pikachu, to the point where I don't think Palkia really won any major tournaments besides its debut, and that wasn't even Shady Dealings Palkia, because after that tournament, it pretty much got gatekept by Arceus Flying Pikachu. And on top of Flying Pikachu hitting a lot of the best decks for weakness, it also stopped basic attackers from attacking on the next turn. Sorry Regigigas, sorry Lost Box, sorry Solrock Lunatone. The list goes on and on. Flying Pikachu went from the ugly duckling to the beautiful swan over time, and congratulations to Flying Pikachu for being awesome. Flying Pikachu V is not bad either. For 1 lightning energy, you do 20 damage, and you flip a coin. If you hit heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is now paralyzed. And its other move's super annoying as well. For 3 colorless energy, does 120 damage, and if you flip heads, you just don't take any damage, which is super annoying to deal with as well. I've even fought decks that skip the Flying Pikachu VMAX and just fight with the Flying Pikachu V. I strongly advise against that, but this card can be incredibly annoying to deal with, and in a jam can actually help you steal some wins here and there. Yveltal is very much having a moment with multiple cards that are meta relevant. We know about Amazing Rare Yveltal from the Lugia deck with its crazy attack cost and being able to just one-hit KO anything in the game. This Yveltal is also crazy in a different way. For 2 colorless energy, it has Cry of Destruction, which lets you discard up to 3 special energy from your opponent's Pokemon. Against Mew VMAX, you can pretty much just end the game in 1 Cry of Destruction, knocking off all of their energy. Against Lugia, you do this 2 or 3 times, and your opponent is pretty much unable to attack. Super cool card, super annoying to fight against when you're playing with special energy, but Yveltal has very much worked its way into the meta, and at this point it kind of has a spot in Blissey Miltank, also has a spot with Durant, among others. Also, the help of double colorless energy, not double colorless, double turbo energy helped out, being able to instantly cover the cost of Cry of Destruction, making this attack even easier to pull off. The 1 gold card in the set, Mew, turned out to be a really cool draw engine where, with its ability, Mysterious Tail lets you look at the top 6 cards of your deck, grab an item card, and put it into your hand. And decks that use this oftentimes use multiple Mews, and then they have scoop up nets and move Mews back and forth, sort of like Lost Box with the comp phase. Before the comp phase, there was Mew here, and my favorite Mew deck was the Mew with Dialga, getting all sorts of items and metal saucers and helping to charge Dialga up in 1 or 2 turns. This was awesome. And there were a lot of decks that, even with that had an engine of their own, like Shady Dealings, Mew was oftentimes a one-of just as a secondary draw engine to get a little extra dig into your deck. So very cool card. What a story this Kyogre deck has to it. When it came on the scene, it got popularized by Tricky Jim, who made a video with the Kyogre and the Cryogonal. The Cryogonal would charge up this Kyogre, and then this would come in and use the Aqua Storm attack. This deck had 40 energy in it. You flip 5 cards, do 1 billion damage, just decimate the bench, and win. And at the time, there was no bench coverage. There was no Manaphy. There was no bench barrier Mew. And this card went crazy. It wasn't that hard to stop for some decks. Like, you could just get away with not benching anything other than your active and then smacking this Kyogre over and over again. But a lot of decks could not deal with Kyogre in at that time. And it was like the most popular deck on PTCGO. The only thing that's really stopped it was the presence of Manaphy, and this deck disappeared. But Kyogre is kind of now back as a serious card in the Lost Zone Mirage Gate decks, where you play out the long game and you get your deck all the way down to 0, and you put on just enough energy so that you can guarantee that it's 5 energy at the back of the deck. You charge up Kyogre with Mirage Gates, and then you swing at the very end of the game, taking a whole bunch of prizes with Aqua Storm to steal the win. It's still a super annoying card, and it's kind of funny now because now that it's in a serious deck, every time I see this card, I'm just like, oh no. But then again, back when it was a meme deck, I was still like, oh no. So this card has had an amazing run. Congratulations, Kyogre. Psychic Zashian V was not as successful as its metal counterpart. Its move Storm Slash for 3 colorless energy just didn't do enough energy, but its Roar of the Sword ability allowed you to attach a psychic energy from your deck into any Pokemon on your bench or in the active, which made it really handy in certain decks, in particular with Shadow Rider Calyrex. Being able to attach to the active Shadow Rider made it easier to have your active Shadow Rider evolve into VMAX and get that 3rd energy on to start attacking right away. Surfing Pikachu VMAX for a time was considered the better of the 2 Pikachus. It hits for 160, does 30 bench damage to all Pokemon benched, and what made it considered to be better than the Flying Pikachu was the fact that it was water type, and you could use the suite of water support: Capacious Buckets, Frost. Oh, you can't use Frostmoth on this. You could use Melanie with this, and it made a lot of sense. And Surfing Pikachu, well, it was okay for its time. It never hit the ceiling of Flying Pikachu, but it was fine in the moment. I think my most triumphant moment with Surfing Pikachu VMAX was there was a match I played against Mew VMAX in its prime, and I won with Surfing Pikachu. I'll make sure to put the video in the description of this match, but I will always have a soft spot in my heart for Surfing Pikachu helping me steal that win against Mew VMAX. Groudon was a worse version of the Kyogre. Instead of hitting the bench 2 targets for 50 damage for each card you flip, this one did 80 damage to the active for each energy that you flipped. Some people tried to make Kyogre and Groudon work, where if you needed to hit the active, you would charge up Groudon. If you needed to hit the bench, you would use Kyogre. It never really panned out, but people did try to make this card work. One more before we roll out. This is Lunala, and it has the really tantalizing attack Lunar Pain, where you double the number of damage counters on each of your opponent's Pokemon. And it gets the gears spinning of like, oh man, how do I set this up in order to just like trigger double the damage and win the game by taking like 8 prizes at once. It's really interesting of an idea. I have seen a number of people try this on me, and I have won every single time. It seems awesome, and maybe someone out there has made this combo work, but I have not seen it work in action. And maybe there are better spread options out there now, like maybe Earth and Steel Stone. Combo this with Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX or something could make this card finally work. But up until now, we haven't really found a use for new Lunala, despite the move looking really cool. Thus concludes our look at Pokemon Celebrations. Yes, this one is a much shorter video because it's a much smaller set, but relative to the amount of cards that were in the set, I think a really high percentage of them ended up mattering. And it's kind of funny because when the set came out, a lot of people didn't really have any expectations for any of these Celebrations cards being competitively viable. And now many of them are staples in the meta and have been since launch. So kudos to the Pokemon Company and for the Celebration set for being more than just collector pieces for people to put in their binders or display on their shelf. These are a number of cards that are in this set are really playable, and I appreciate that. But that's going to do it for today. The next time we come around and do this, I will give a look at V Unions, which also came out on the same day. So if you want to make sure that you go and catch that one, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. You can subscribe to me on all the things: YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram at In Third Person. You can also find me on Twitch at In Third Person, where I stream the Pokemon trading card game every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And you can also find me on my website, inthirdperson.com, for more articles and videos on video games, board games, and other nerdy pursuits. So until the next one, I will see you later. Bye-bye.